Civics 101 is supported in part by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
What is the biggest problem in America today? What would you do if elected the head of our democratic republic? In short, what's your stump speech?
And a government that works for all and not just the 1%.
$50 million and first dollar, you got to pitch in 2 cents.
American middle class was built by unions, by you.
We are building the wall 100%.
That was the task for our third annual student contest, and we received over 100 submissions from across the country.
This is Civics 101. I'm Hannah McCarthy.
And I'm Nick Capodice.
And today we are bringing you the winners of our student contest.
One of the only stipulations was that these stump speeches had to be a minute long, and we received a huge diversity of topics. We got gun control.
I would raise the age requirement for purchasing a gun to be at least 21 years old.
Hyperpartisanship.
In America's political climate of polarization and even factionalism that seems to reflect Dante's portrayal of Florence, unity is the most rational solution to our problems.
And a lot about immigration.
Overall, I consider that the government should try and help the immigrants as much as possible.
We can enforce border patrol and continue the border wall construction.
And there are things that just plain work when it comes to these. The team at the website FiveThirtyEight, they have a wonderful project called the Perfect Presidential Stump Speech, where they lay out some tips like repetition can be good or always do things in threes.
Yeah, and you're always supposed to say, this is the most important election of our lifetime. And yet, to end with, and it's not about me, and it's not about this election. It's about this other thing that I've been talking about.
Right. So the entire Civics 101 team met and we deliberated at length, and then we finally voted and we selected 3 stump speeches as this year's winners. But we've put all the finalists on our website, and you can listen to them at civics101podcast.org/contest.
We didn't just want to air the speeches without understanding their broader political context. So we brought in someone who lives and breathes politics.
Hi there, Nick.
Dan!
I'm Dr. Dan Cassino. I am a professor of government and law at Fairleigh Dickinson University.
Did you know he was a doctor?
I didn't.
You know, Nick, scientists have been PhDs since the 12th century. Doctors only started being called doctors, medical doctors, in the 1600s. So we're the OG doctors.
Well, that is a little news you can use. So Hannah and the OG Dr. Dan, let's do this. First contest winner, Hailey Cheng from Arcadia High School in California.
Giant corporations are responsible for the majority of global emissions, and they must be held legally accountable for their actions. When businesses make decisions about manufacturing, they do not consider the environment because they hardly feel the consequences. And if these companies can still make more profit by ignoring environmental implications, they will do so. Corporations should not get away with making a profit at the expense of our planet. We simply cannot stop the path of climate change if America does not take the drastic measures to regulate colossal corporations who are the brunt of the problem. Climate change is a threat on the planetary scale, and it warrants a solution on the planetary scale. So as president, I would make sure big businesses are held accountable and uphold the government's ultimate responsibility to protect their citizens.
All right. So Dan, what do you think of Hailey Cheng's speech?
So Hailey is really, I think, doing something smart, which is focusing on big corporations. When we talk about climate change and what we can do about climate change, we're talking at the individual level, right? Well, don't throw out your plastic straw. But Hailey, I think, has gotten really to the heart of the matter, which is it's not individuals that are going to save the world from climate change. It is large corporations and governments. There has to be structural changes. She's also talking about, though she doesn't use this terminology, she's talking about something economists have talked about for a long time. That is the idea of negative externalities. That is, when somebody does something, if it affects somebody else, they should be made to pay for all those negative externalities. That's a really smart argument, and one that is not just going to appeal to liberals, but also appeal to conservatives. I mean, this is Chicago school economists who are making these sort of arguments.
Dan, are there any 2020 candidates that Hailey reminds you of?
Well, we have had candidates who were talking a lot about climate change. Michael Bennett, for instance.
Climate. And when I woke up this morning here, blossoms in my backyard were blooming a month before they should. That's the 3rd or 4th year that's happened.
But they haven't been able to get as much traction in the Democratic primary as candidates who ought to have more broader set of policy proposals.
It's interesting that climate change hasn't gotten all that much traction in this election because a significant number of our submissions featured that as like their primary focus.
I think it was a greater percentage than any other topic of these submissions. Number 2, Tigist Murch from Brewster Academy in New Hampshire.
How is it fair that men get paid more money than women for doing the same job? Hi, my name is Tigist Murch, and here's why you should vote for me for president. I will personally take action to make sure there's equal pay by putting in place laws for women all around. Aren't you guys sick and tired of seeing the same thing? For example, the U.S. women's soccer team base salary is $100,000 a year, while the men's soccer team's base salary is $387,500 a year. Another example is in Hollywood. Men tend to make double what the women make. You can also see this in basketball players and hockey players. My plan will work. We pass a law and then penalize those who don't abide by the rules. Last but not least, women will finally get the equal pay they deserve. Poverty rate amongst working women will also go down. Vote for me as your president. I will bring this country what it needs. Equal pay for all, just as it should have been from the beginning. Thank you.
So Tigist is making a really focused case about gender equity, and especially about equal pay for women. Now, it's not a bad idea to make an appeal to women because women, of course, are a majority of the electorate. So if you have to appeal to a group, women is not a bad group to be appealing to. A lot of the examples she gives of men being paid more than women for the same work are really potent. The idea that the U.S. women's soccer team doesn't get paid as much as the men's soccer team, despite the fact that the merchandise makes more and more people watch them, they're actually good.
The fact that the Women's World Cup final in 2015 was the most watched soccer game in the United States history. For that, they get paid 38 cents on the dollar compared to male players.
Yeah. And the most popular laws about trying to create equal pay for men and women are actually laws, regulations really, that force companies to disclose pay. That is, once companies have to tell everybody, here's how much you're making, here's how much everyone else in your office is making. Once they do that, you're not telling companies what they have to pay, but you're rather empowering workers to go to their boss and say, hey, you're paying this other guy $10,000 a year more than I am. What gives? Also, she does make one really cool linkage, and that is the link to poverty. Most of the households that are in poverty are female-headed households. So we've got single mothers who are working, and they're not getting paid as much, and that forces them and their children into poverty. They would be, of course, much better off if they were getting equal pay.
So, Dan, have we heard any messaging like Tigist's in the 2020 election?
Sure. We actually have seen Elizabeth Warren talk quite a bit about gender equality and the way women are treated in the workforce.
The game is rigged when women earn less than men for doing the same work. It's rigged when women can be fired for asking how much the guy down the hall makes for doing the same job.
All right, last but definitely not least, from Arcadia High School in California, Vijay Damerla.
I think that the main idea of my presidency could be summed up in one word: invest. My priority will be tackling the daunting enemy that is climate change because we need to invest in our future. We need to reduce the carbon dioxide emissions immediately. One way would be to reinstate the Obama-era auto policy that regulates cars to 55 miles per gallon. While companies like Honda have agreed to continue this, even though it's not the law, others like Toyota have simply refused. We need to invest in gigafactories. And with just 100 of these, the entire world's energy needs could be theoretically met, but only if we invest in it. We need to invest in renewable energies, such as electric, solar, hydroelectric, and wind. We need to invest in our middle class. We need to tax those above the $1 million tax bracket at a very high rate, because the top 400 Americans are richer than the bottom 150 million. That can't be the case. Now is the future, and we need to start investing in it. Thank you.
So, Vijay has some really good ideas, ones that are actually going to appeal to a large segment of the American population. A lot of what Vijay is saying is based on this idea of technological optimism. The idea that really whatever problem we have, we can invest and we can build our way out of it. We can find new technologies for whatever is the problem we're facing. And those new technologies will help everybody. And that's a really popular appeal because it allows us to avoid trade-offs. In much the same way that supply-side economics for a long time let people say, oh, we'll cut tax and raise revenue, we'll avoid the trade-off. Technological optimism lets us say, well, this is a problem, but we don't actually have to fix it. We just have to give a bunch of money to very smart people, and they'll fix it for us. Vijay makes a very strong appeal to inequality, saying, look, there are rich people who are not paying enough in taxes, and we should tax them. And that feels like it should be a popular appeal in American politics, because after all, most of us are not very rich people. But it turns out the American public doesn't actually like that argument very much. They don't like this argument that, well, rich people have too much money. So if you want to make the argument that we should tax the rich more, have a more progressive taxation system, it really helps to frame it in terms of equity. That is, rich people get all these tax breaks that you and I don't, or rich people should pay their fair share. And those sort of appeals to equity do a better job of bringing everybody along on this idea of a more progressive taxation system.
Dan, who does Vijay remind you of?
Oh, Vijay sounds a lot like Andrew Yang, actually.
Fuel efficiency, because trucks can convoy together and lower wind resistance, and so robot trucks would be able to get places with less fuel.
Andrew Yang is doing very much the same thing with the technological optimism, saying we need to get rid of these old solutions and just bring in totally new solutions and trust in technology and science, and we think that they can save us.
All right, thank you so much, Dan. And even more, thank you, Hailey. Thank you, Tigist. Thank you, Vijay.
And to all who entered, it was the best part of our job to listen to these, and the hardest part of our job to pick only 3.
Again, you can listen to all the finalist speeches at civics101podcast.org/contest. We're going to continue our series on political parties in our next episode. And to any educators out there, be sure to visit our education page, civics101podcast.org/info, where you can get free graphic organizers for each episode, and join our new education newsletter for our monthly digest of not only what we've been up to in the education world, but pics of our favorite civics and U.S. history lesson plans from across the nation.
This episode was produced by you, Nick Capodice, with me, Hannah McCarthy.
Our staff includes Jackie Fulton, Erica Janik is our executive producer and cutter of cloth and expressions like Chicago-style economics.
And you know what? It's not about Maureen McMurray. It's not even about this election. It's about something else.
Music in this episode by Scott Gratton, Scott Holmes, Audio Hertz, and Rachel Collier.
Civics 101 is supported in part by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and is a production of NHPR, New Hampshire Public Radio.